Okay, it looks like we're good to go. Again, welcome everyone. I am Lauren Skinner-Johnson with Convey Compliance, and joining me today is Neil Lefevre, a product manager with Convey. Today, a lot of organizations are struggling to adapt to the increasingly complex changes that are occurring within the tax information reporting space, and many of them are stressed about data import issues, inadequate security, and managing late compliance updates. Luckily, through technology, it's easier to stay compliant. With technology, you can have more flexible data import capabilities, enhance security, and you can improve your customer service, as well as ensuring timely and accurate state updates. Before I turn it over to Neil, I'd like to let you know that if at any time during this presentation you'd like to submit a question, again, just type it in the Q&A box on the right-hand panel, in the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go through all of the questions and answer as many as we can. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Neil.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So today, we're going to cover 5 different areas of tax information reporting that we commonly hear companies in the industry struggle with. And as they struggle through these different areas, they have to implement a lot of workarounds and unique processes to get the job done. And what we find really interesting is they don't even realize that they're workarounds. It's just part of the process, or we also hear, this is just how we do it. And so what we'd like to do today is kind of step through some of these issues that Convey sees as common issues and workarounds, and really just bring to light that there are better ways to accomplish some of these tasks in a much more efficient and time-effective manner to save your organization money and to save you a lot of stress during January. So the different areas we're going to cover are data management, which is really how you get your data from your source system into your information reporting product. Outputs, which include print of tax forms as well as reports. How you handle customer service, so if any of your clients who receive the forms have a question, how do they reach you, and when they do reach you, how does that process work, and how effective and efficient is it? System maintenance and security, and then finally what we call, or what I call, a comprehensive solution, and we'll talk more about what that means in a few minutes. And then at the end, we'll try to save a little bit of time for questions and answers. So jumping right in talking to different organizations out there and different companies, when they take their data from their source systems and bring it into their tax solution, we often hear terms like data translator or middleware, or there's a whole bunch of kind of buzzwords that folks use when they talk about loading data into their information reporting tool. So what we hear is they export the data from their source system, and then they put it in this tool to reformat the data so that it can be imported into their tax tool. And for a lot of folks, that's just how the process works. And really, Convey considers that a workaround and an issue, and there's better ways to do that, and we'll talk about how to resolve that in a minute. And then a lot of tools out there today have very strict data import requirements. So when you load your import files, you need to use that translator to get it into a specific format or maybe a couple different formats. So that's another common issue. And then also another limitation is that individuals are accumulating their data or summarizing the information before loading it into their year-end tool. And again, there's a couple better ways to do that. So from a data quality standpoint, we also hear a lot of clients are spending time manually scrubbing data. So what do I mean by scrubbing data? They're removing invalid characters from their source data. They are just really removing anything that would cause an IRS rejection, and they're doing that on the front end in Excel or in that data translator I talked about earlier. Also, there's a lot of issues that clients struggle with as it relates to only being able to load data annually. And that puts a lot of stress on them because they can only load data from January 1st to the 31st instead of spreading that out throughout the year. And then from a reject standpoint, how do you handle rejects today? A lot of clients, or a lot of companies out there, I should say, have a very convoluted reject or exception processing procedure that they go through. What we hear is that they load the data into their tax tool. That tax tool creates an exception report or a reject report, and then they take that Excel sheet, ship it off to each business unit to get corrections made, and then re-import that Excel file or rerun it through the data translator. And essentially what they have to do is they have to create this very long, extensive process for handling different rejects and exceptions that they may encounter. And we find that this really impedes the testing process. So because of all these workarounds, the Excel sheets, the data translators, just to do one cycle of testing takes an extended period of time, and a lot of organizations just don't have the time to go through that multiple times throughout the year. So, it just creates a lot of strain towards the end of the year. So those are some of the common issues and kind of workarounds that we see today that companies out there are facing. And if you look to change your tool or change your process, you can really streamline and get rid of a lot of those workarounds. So, when I talk about a data translator, you should actually get rid of that tool if at all possible. Your 1099 reporting system should be able to accept import feeds automatically from your source system. So you should eliminate that whole importing, translating, re-importing process. So having a tool that's flexible enough to accept multiple file formats and accept that data right from the source systems is a huge time saver that we see organizations take advantage of. Then from a data quality standpoint, your 1099 solution should be performing all the different scrubbing, removing of invalid characters, and performing all the different IRS validations to ensure that your files are accepted by the IRS. That should really be the system that is doing that. You shouldn't be doing it via Excel, via macros, or via that data translation tool. And once you really streamline that importing process, what that allows you to do is it allows you to run your imports on a more frequent basis. So a lot of clients, as I mentioned, or a lot of companies out there, I should say, today only do that import annually because it's so burdensome. So as you streamline that front-end process and remove all those intermittent systems, what that allows you to do is it allows you to run imports, for example, on a monthly basis so that you can correct rejects and go through the reject processing on a more frequent basis and get those corrections done earlier in the year to have a less stressful January. Also, what you should consider is that the reject process, beyond the system just telling you what's being rejected or what needs to be corrected, when your lines of business actually make the corrections, instead of putting it in an Excel sheet and shipping it all over your organization, which creates a lot of risk from a data security standpoint, a tool like Convey can actually allow your lines of business to log into the system, make corrections to those rejects right then and there to avoid that whole external process. So beyond just getting rid of all the spreadsheets floating around your organization, what that also does is it allows the individuals who actually own the data to make the corrections in real time and get real-time feedback from your 1099 reporting system. So what that means is if they make a change and the change is still incorrect, the system can tell them in real time that they need to make additional edits versus them today getting an Excel sheet, making a correction, sending it back to you to re-go through the data scrubbers and send them another Excel sheet. They can just do that all in one step. So really what we're talking about is really streamlining the whole importing process, doing it more frequently, and then utilizing the tax tool to do all the validations in real time to get those corrections into the system as quickly as and efficiently as possible. So next item I'd like to talk through is outputs. So in talking to different organizations today, I hear a lot of struggles around reports and the different workarounds and headaches from a report standpoint and also a print form standpoint. So let's start with reports. Today, a lot of organizations have very limited reporting that comes from their 1099 solution. And what they need to do is they need to, in a lot of cases, contact their IT department to execute a report. And that can be very burdensome because now you're relying on an external department who may not have the same priorities that you have. You're relying on them to run that report for you, and you may have a time-sensitive issue that you need to get resolved, or you may have a client who has a concern that you need to address. So, you know, putting a request into an external department leads to long turnaround times, can lead to upset clients, and at the end of the day, it leaves you sitting at your desk kind of twiddling your thumbs waiting for a response from your IT department. Also, it can be very costly to have your IT department running all these reports for you, essentially doubling the amount of individuals who are working on something as simple as a report. And then finally, from a report standpoint, you know, just the limited amount of reporting that a lot of organizations get out of their current system. What we hear is that, you know, they have a set of maybe 5 or 10 reports that they have today, and if they want to add any additional ones, it's extremely expensive and costly. So a lot of times what they do is they end up trying to create their own reports outside of the system in Excel, for example, manipulating Excel data to get at the actual information that they need instead of leveraging their tax tool. And then from a print form standpoint, there are not necessarily a lot of workarounds, but there's a lot of limitations that we hear organizations talk about. So in a lot of cases, what their 1099 system produces is basically a plain vanilla 1099. So it looks just like what the IRS has. And although that's not necessarily a workaround, it does lead to downstream issues potentially. So for example, you can't add print notes to your forms or transactions to your forms, and I'll talk about how that can help you in a second. So when looking for a new 1099 reporting tool or to resolve some of your current issues, some of the considerations that you should have is definitely a robust and flexible reporting tool within your 1099 system. So what do I mean by that? Well, you should be able to create unlimited reports, and those should be at your fingertips whenever you need them. So a good 1099 solution will allow you to run a report yourself with your own login versus having to request anything, for example, from IT, or to have IT or someone else within your organization create that report for you. So that's going to lead to much quicker turnaround times. It's going to allow you to take advantage of the power of that 1099 tool instead of using Excel or some other means to get at the information. And actually another way that folks do it that I forgot to mention was maybe going back to the different lines of businesses to get the reports from the source system. So again, it really puts the power of that 1099 tool in your hands and lets you get at the information that you need. And then from a print standpoint, I kind of mentioned some different customizations that you can do and how that can have effects downstream. So we'll get into customer service in a minute, but from a print form standpoint, there's a lot of advantages that can be had if you have a system in place which allows customization of print output. So Convey has something that we call print notes, for example. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to put a note on the top of your form with any sort of messaging that you'd like to get to your recipients. So a lot of our clients currently put things like customer service phone numbers on the tops of the forms. If you have questions, please call. What they'll also do is put web addresses to their support sections or web addresses to FAQs. And what that allows them to do is deflect customer service calls and you know, hopefully send them to some self-service type solutions versus just calling a general customer service line. Also with print form customizations, you can do things like printing transactions on forms. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of limitations today that clients have are they can only import one grand total into their system. I kind of mentioned that in the data management section. So with Convey's tools, you can load all the individual raw transactions from your source systems into our tax tools and print those individual payments on your 1099 forms. So what are some of the advantages of that? Well, we hear a lot of companies out there get questions because individuals have concerns about the overall payment that was issued. And so all they need to know is why the payment was issued. And if you load all the individual transactions and print those on the forms, you can actually provide that information to your clients, again, trying to avoid those customer service calls, and at the end of the day, provide a better experience to your clients. So third section, customer service. So I've spoken with a lot of companies, and what they tell me is that essentially the limitations of their software and some of the processes that they need to have in place really leads to a poor client experience, and that has a huge impact. It's a huge cost to the organization to service the clients. It has a negative brand impact on the organization as a whole, and it has potential for clients to actually look for another solution instead of your organization because of poor experience. So, you know, today some of the things that we hear are print limitations generate calls. So, for example, I mentioned not having the transactions on the form and individuals being confused about the makeup of the 1099 leads them to call your organization to get additional information. For your actual customer service representatives, there's a lot of limitations that we hear and leads to a whole plethora of workarounds. So a great example, talking to an organization recently, and their customer service actually doesn't have access to the 1099 information. So what happens is a client calls in with a question, they get routed to just a general help desk where no one who picks up the phone can actually help them. They then type up an email with the question or concern and send that to the tax department. The tax department researches the issue and emails back the customer service agent, who then recontacts the customer. Now, I don't need to go into a lot of detail, but that's obviously not a very effective and efficient customer service process. First of all, you have emails with sensitive information floating around. You have no tracking mechanism to manage that system, and essentially it's a giant Band-Aid on the customer service issue that they face. A couple other issues beyond just that are if your customer service agents do have access to some of the information, they may not have access to prior year or historic information. They may not have access to all of the information. I hear a lot of organizations who have access to some of the information, but then they need to transfer customers around to different actual business units to actually get any details or to get anything resolved. So definitely kind of step through a few issues. The whole email system is a huge, huge and common workaround that we hear in place to make up for a true customer service tool or portal. So how can you actually do it better and more efficiently? Your customer service agents should have access to some sort of tool. In Convey's world, we call it FormView, which allows you or your CSRs or your customer service representatives easy access to all the information so that they can answer the questions that arise immediately, right then and there with the client on the phone. They don't have to put the client on hold. They don't have to transfer them. They don't have to generate an untracked email and send it throughout the organization or transfer them to some other business unit within your organization. So easy to use tool that provides them the information not only to the current information, but also to historic information as well, which allows access to all the data and all the information that they need. Allows them to make fast reprints to current and prior year data. Also, what you should consider is allowing certain customer service representatives to actually make adjustments to tax forms. or what we call edit capabilities. And I know that can be a little bit scary, so you definitely need to make sure you have the property security protocols in place, but a lot of organizations today have an escalation process where they actually have certain more senior reps who can make adjustments to tax forms right then and there with the customer on the phone. And maybe you're saying, well, that's, you know, our reps don't really have the knowledge to be able to do that. Well, what organizations like Convey can offer are what we call customer service workflow. So I kind of described the whole email process previously and how changes get made. With customer service workflow, what you can actually do is within our tax application, you can submit a request for a change. And what that does is it alerts either someone in the business unit or someone else within the tax department or a more senior customer service rep that someone is requesting a change. That change is tracked in the system. It can be accepted or denied once the proper checks and balances are completed, and then that change can be allowed through and a new reprint, for example, can be generated. And that's all audited and tracked through the tax system. So eliminating the whole email process and the, you know, insecure methods of sending emails all throughout your organization. Okay, so next area, system maintenance and security. So a lot of organizations today really struggle with their current tool from a system level. We hear that updates are late, often cases just before deadlines are reached. When they do get those updates, they're very wary to apply them because in a lot of cases they refer to them as being buggy or they have issues once they're applied. It doesn't work as advertised. And also, you know, a lot of systems, especially older systems, maybe mainframe type systems, don't really take advantage of a lot of, you know, enhancements. You know, really they're more in a maintenance type mode, just applying compliance updates. So enhancements are few and far between. And then from a security level, you know, there's just not a lot of security baked into some products that are out there today. It's very limited, and that really creates constraints both upstream and downstream. So earlier I talked about a reject process where people extract rejects in Excel spreadsheets and send them to lines of businesses. And you know, one of the reasons that they do that is their system doesn't have security in place to let that line of business only see their tax data. So if the system has the appropriate security, you can actually have that line of business log into the system and make the corrections. And then from a customer service standpoint, maybe you don't want all the reps to be able to edit the data. You want everything to be read-only. So, you know, having limited security has access or has repercussions both upstream all the way to the data management and then downstream all the way to the customer service level. So it really prohibits, you know, the entire process end-to-end and at the end of the day can create some of these additional steps and processes that you may be going through. So some things to consider in a new solution or some options that are out there for you. From a system update standpoint, you should definitely make sure that your provider, that your next solution provides quality updates, and the updates are early and often. So we all know that the IRS is constantly making changes. If you've been to any of our other educational webinars, you know that, you know, there's increased penalties, there's changes to Second B notices, you know, new 1099K tax forms, for example. There's all these changes that are occurring, so you want to make sure that the system is updated often. And not only is it updated often with these changes, but the updates are of a high quality, and what you see is what you get. And then from a security standpoint, you know, this is really key end-to-end to make sure that the appropriate security is in place, that it supports role and function-based security so that it's easy to administer and individuals can only see what they should. And hopefully it's, you know, easy to configure and use, and it will really allow you to have individuals outside of the tax department view, edit, and manage their data versus having to control it all within the tax organization itself. And then, of course, with any system, you want to make sure that the proper audit trails are being maintained so that if individuals are making adjustments, those are being tracked and recorded appropriately. Okay, and then the last section is what I call the comprehensive solution. So a lot of companies today have a main 1099 reporting system, which does the bulk of their filing, and then they have additional systems out there which handle some subset of their information reporting. So a couple examples of that, they may produce all their 1099 ints and miss from their core system, but they use another third-party application to handle corrections, or maybe to process their 1042S or Puerto Rico forms. Their core system doesn't handle that, so they need to purchase an additional system or systems to manage those processes. So you obviously have additional costs of purchasing those applications, but you also have the added training and risk of just managing this data all across these different platforms. And then beyond just individual tax forms, there's things like TIN compliance or B notices, which a lot of organizations today handle via spreadsheets. So they actually aren't using any technology at all to help through that cumbersome process. They're just using spreadsheets. Same with withholding. When they're managing their withholding liabilities, their remittances, those are things that are all done outside of their core tax information system. So at looking at a new system, you should definitely consider organizations like Convey who have a comprehensive 1099 reporting solution that handles not only your 1099s, but it also brings in things like TIN compliance and withholding and additional form types like 1042S, Canada, Puerto Rico, so that you can do all of this within the same umbrella. You have it all managed and maintained all in one spot. And also, your solution should take advantage of new IRS features, things like TIN matching. A lot of organizations today don't take advantage of TIN matching because their current solution doesn't support it. So for anyone out there that doesn't know, TIN matching is a program the IRS has which they'll actually tell you if your TINs and names are correct or incorrect. So it's a great way to proactively eliminate B notices. And then also things like TIN masking. So the IRS actually now allows you to hide the first 5 digits of Social Security numbers on your printed statements. So a great feature, a great security feature the IRS allows, which some older systems can't really handle or manage, so they can't take advantage of those extra programs from the IRS. So with that, for anyone that doesn't know, before we open it up to Q&A, I'd just like to spend a quick minute and let you know kind of who Convey is for anyone that isn't familiar. We're an organization that is a industry leader in providing flexible, on-demand tax solutions, as well as withholding management and TIN compliance solutions. We've been in this business for over 25 years with over 2,000 clients, including almost half of the Fortune 500 organizations out there. And as an organization, we are solely dedicated to tax information reporting, and our solutions guarantee compliance with the 1099 series forms, as well as the 39, 21s, and 22s, 1042S, Puerto Rico, the list goes on. So as an organization, we can definitely help you streamline your information reporting process and address any of the issues or workarounds that we talked through today and help you really streamline your process and bring all of your information reporting under one unified umbrella. So with that, I will turn it back over to Lauren.
Thanks, Neil. We did get a couple of questions, and we'll do our best to quickly answer these. One question is coming from Ray. Do you find that your clients have issues with data when so much manipulation happens, and is this something that they struggle with?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ray. So we do find that definitely with all of these additional processes occurring outside of the 1099 solution and then kind of this untracked method, there's definitely a lot of issues. You're sending out a spreadsheet to a line of business, and now you're responsible for tracking that they, return the spreadsheet and that all the updates are correct and appropriate. And what we find is there's a lot of back and forth. So you get the spreadsheet back, you load that data, or the rejects are corrected, and they don't fix all the issues because they're not getting real-time feedback. So they then need to resubmit a new list of rejects or exceptions and basically cycle through that process as many times as it takes to get all the information corrected. And some organizations out there have tens or even hundreds of business units that they're running this process through. You can see that it gets very cumbersome and time-consuming very quickly and can lead to a lot of potential issues and mistakes. And at the end of the day, sometimes companies just don't have time to get all the issues corrected, and they have to end up printing forms that they know are going to potentially be incorrect. And now they have the added cost and embarrassment of having their customers find these issues. So definitely a lot of room for improvement.
Okay. Thanks, Neil. Again, if you guys have any other questions, please do submit them through the Q&A box. We have another one from Vicki. Vicki is wondering if Convey supports automated feeds for corrections from the divisions.
That's a great question. So we do support automated imports in our TaxPort solution. I'm not going to get too far down into talking through TaxPort, but TaxPort is our enterprise tax reporting solution, and we do support automated imports of both original data as well as corrections. And the TaxPort tool actually has what we call a scheduler built into it, so you can actually schedule these feeds to occur on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So it really streamlines this process to get it all scheduled and automated and get that schedule worked out with your business units. And once it actually runs those jobs, it can provide automated email feedback back to the lines of businesses so that it's kind of a hands-off approach to really automating your 1099 process.
Okay, well, thank you, Ray and Vicki, for the questions. Again, if you have anything else that comes up, just let us know. And before we conclude today, I would just like to let you know about Convey's annual conference. It's called the Compliance Connect, or the C2 Summit. It is a live information reporting seminar with about 2.5 days of regulatory compliance as well as Convey solution sessions. The 2011 conference will be at the Omni Shore Motel in Washington, D.C. this September 28th through the 30th. We'll have a number of industry compliance experts presenting at this year's conference. Some of those include Paula Porpelia with TIN Compliance Consultants, Candace Ewell from PricewaterhouseCoopers, who's also a member of IRPAC, Cyrus Daftari from Burt Staples and Maynard, just to name a few. And also for attending today's webinar, we'd like to offer you a $100 discount from the registration fee. You'll see this code that's on the slide currently. It's CNV Prospect 100. And don't forget to register before May 31st. We're currently offering an early bird price, and the price will go up starting June 1st. And lastly, before we let you go, this webinar has been recorded, and you will be getting an email from me next week with access to the recorded version as well as the slides. And I'll also give you that discount code one more time. So with that, I'd like to say thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.